My name is Jason Leineberg, and I'm a recovered drug addict.
Hi, Jason.
Man, you know what? That sounds really cool saying it. I've been a member of DAA for 2 days. This is cool. We don't have this by us, but I think that's going to change very soon.
Oh, yeah.
My sobriety date is October 5th, 2015. We have a home group as a primary purpose group. We meet Wednesday nights, and we really operate much more like a DAA meeting. We got I'm a crackhead. My wife is a crackhead. We have dope fiends, meth head. Everybody is welcome at our group because we really understand that the substance that's been killing us has nothing to do with what the real trouble is. You know what I mean? So the solution is very much the same for all of us, and it's dying to self. I love it in Bill's story. It says, enough honesty, willingness, and humility to establish and maintain the new order of things. Those were the essential requirements. It says simple but not easy. A price had to be paid. It meant the destruction of self-centeredness. And this is the first step in it, man. Listen, I went to my first AA meeting in 1987, and I spent a lot of time in and out, 28 years in and out of AA, mostly out. I would stay out until I was just beaten into a state of reasonableness, as we like to say around here. And I would come in, and somebody brought up Harry Tebow, but I would come in, man, just beat, willing to do anything, and I'd see these steps on the wall, and I'd do 1, 2, and 3. And step 4 made absolutely no sense to me, and there was no chance in hell I was going to do it. Harry Tebow talks about the rapid reconstruction of the ego in the alcoholic or the drug addict. And it let me sit too long, and I made too much of this stuff. I got better plans. And so I'm the kind of guy, if you don't give me good reason why I should do something, I'm not going to do it. I never sat down with a man who was armed with the facts about himself. Never. I sat down with a lot of sponsors who were good-meaning people. In fact, when I got really serious and I was going to do this stuff, my sponsor handed me this 200 and 400-page Hazelden work thing to go through. And this was in November. And he said, you know what, the holidays are coming up. I don't want to drag up a bunch of old feelings. Why don't we do your 5th step on February 1st? And then I walked into a room full of guys who had big books, and they told me that they were speaking a language I never heard. 28 years in AA, they were talking about the program of recovery outlined in the big book, and I was just like blown away, man. I want to come drag everybody back with me. You got to hear what these guys are talking about. They're talking about something totally different. And I remember asking the guy who would run that meeting if he'd take me through the work. And coming into that, I don't know why, man, like a little kid, like a junior high, going to ask a girl to dance, asking this guy to help me. And I was so nervous, and I didn't want to do it. And I remember she was with me, and she goes, don't you got to go ask somebody something? And I remember, yeah. And if I ask this guy to help me, I know I'm going to have to do something. And I did. And so I met with him, and he kind of qualified me, made sure who he was working with was the real deal. And he kind of laid this whole thing out for me. Here's what we're going to do. And he gave me probably the best piece of advice that I got in the beginning of this deal. He said, do yourself a favor. Don't try and figure it out. He goes, the book says write, we're going to write. The book says pray, we're going to pray. And he goes, I promise you. He goes, when we get to the other side of this deal, all the dots will get connected. And they most certainly have. And again, I didn't understand this whole inventory deal. I heard a couple of guys. Well, let me talk back. So, Bill Wilson in 1918 was in England, and he was about waiting to get shipped off to France to go fight in the war. And he was scared to death that he was going to get killed, and full of fear, anxiety, and all that good stuff. And he walked into Winchester Cathedral, and he had this experience. He talks about this experience that he found himself at perfect peace and at perfect ease, and his fears fell from him. He was not afraid. He was at peace with God. Right? But as soon as he left that building, that feeling was gone. And So what I've come to understand is that, it says when we make this third step decision to place God first in my life, that sometimes in effect a very great one is felt at once. And for me, my Winchester Cathedral was in the basement of a rickety old sober house, and I felt the presence of God. And it says, though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it would have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous course of action to face and be rid of those things that kept me blocked off from God. So I knew that I had to do something again. So a couple of guys talked about page 62 this weekend, and they stopped at the fear piece. And, it says that we're driven by 100 forms of fear, which I'd get because fear owned me. But then self-delusion. And, in step 5, it says we admitted to God, to ourselves. And somehow I've always missed that to ourselves, you know what I mean? It's the truth is I never ever saw the truth about myself. So it says we're gonna engage on this inventory journey to discover the truth about me. And I walked in the rooms and I was the most selfless person in the building. And that was the truth. And I remember hearing people say, "Man, you're just selfish too. You don't even know me." They knew me better than I knew me. So I made this third step decision. It was a Thursday night. I wrote my inventory on Saturday, and we did a fifth step on Tuesday, and I was making my first amends by Saturday. And some profound changed in me. And I really, I'm drawn to the third column of the inventory. The things within me, the basic instincts of life that create self. Our social instinct, our security instinct, and our sex instinct. These are all God-given instincts, man, and I didn't understand just how out of whack I was in all those areas. And when we talk about fear being shot through the whole fabric of my being, it was all over this third column. And I was relying on me to produce everything in that third column at the level that I thought that I needed it or that I wanted it. So when we start talking about our real reliance needs to be on God, I place my full reliance on everything in that third column to be provided by God. Mm-hmm. In the third step promise, it says we had a new employer, that he's going to provide everything that I need if I stay close to him and do his work well. And the dots being connected, I see the simplicity of this whole deal, man. I have one job. I've had one job since I got off my knees in that Bonner house, the sober house. And I have one job today, to stay close to him. And he'll provide everything for me at that third column, at the level he intends for me to have it, to fulfill his plan and his purpose for me. Not mine, not what I think I need, not what I think I want, what he has for me. You know what I mean? These are, like I said, they're God-given instincts, therefore good, and I'm just out of whack in a lot of these areas. The cool thing about the whole process is that, like I said, I got to see the truth about me, but I never ever tried to put any of this stuff in writing the way they laid it out. And it's those 28 years in and out of AA, man, I was scared to death of this whole 4 and 5 because I got all these knuckleheads telling me, "Oh, you wait till you do your fifth step, this and that." "Oh, you done the fifth step? Welcome to AA." I've done the fifth step. I see the truth about what a piece of crap I am, really. You know what I mean? I say, you done 6 and 7, welcome to DAA. Sorry, my AA coming out at me. So it's... Hank Parkhurst in the chapter of the employer says that he needs to understand he must undergo a change of heart. the kind of change that needs to happen for me to get well is the change that I cannot produce on my own. And when I talk about the price that had to be paid with meant the destruction of self-centeredness, it's through this process that I gained some humility. I walked through some fear, and I began to have an experience. You know what I mean? I was a guy who was driven by fear. I cared so deeply about what other people thought of me. There was not a chance in hell I'd be standing up here doing this in front of a bunch of people. No, this is not me. It was never my plan. And it's in this process that I've been changed. I truly, truly believe that it's only in the absence of our ego that we get to experience the presence of God, the transforming grace of God. And the thing that I was so very afraid of the whole time is one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. You know what I mean? I'm also a guy that's scared to do things because I don't want to do it wrong. If I don't understand how to do it, I'm not going to do it. And you know, it said nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty, and I clung to that. So I don't know if I'm doing it right or wrong, but I'm gonna just get as honest as I can, and see where it goes. And I came out the other side a changed man, that's for sure. So I get to see the truth about me, and I think that's something that's really important about that is because I think Chris made reference to the experience that Bill had with Dr. Bow on page 155. It's embossed on the front of my book, you know, that he had a desperate desire to stop but saw no way out. He said, he earnestly tried many avenues of escape, painfully aware of being somehow abnormal. The man did not fully realize what it meant to be alcoholic. And I suffered that same fate for 28 years. And once I understood what the problem was, I was willing to get uncomfortable. And this is as uncomfortable as it gets to walk through the fear and gain some humility. You know what I mean? Humility is the key to everything. And so hard to stay right here because I want to share so much more. I especially want to talk about drugs because I normally don't talk about drugs. But, put me in a room full of drug addicts that I can speak freely about, and we're going to talk about inventory. Okay. But it's cool. So, you know, you start thinking about these resentments, man. Resentments are nasty. You know, resentment and forgiveness don't occupy the same heart. So how do I bring myself to a place of forgiveness? And the first thing is to see the truth about who I am. Because when I see the truth about who I am, the fact is that's probably how I deserve to be treated. You know what I mean? Because I see myself, like I said, I'm the most selfless, kind, loving person, and I don't see all the other stuff. And I get to see the truth. And a lot of that stuff falls from me right away. And I don't know, guys. It's I believe that, you know, this whole deal is going to lead us into step 6 and 7, and I truly believe that in order to repent from the sin, you first must identify the sin, and when I can see the actual brokenness in me, then I can bring it to God to change me. But it wasn't until I went through that process. I'll just say this real quick, because I spent a lot of time in halfway houses, sober houses, treatment centers, and I had a counselor at a state-ran treatment center that always used to say, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And it just pissed me off. Because I didn't, man, it sounds cool, and I didn't know what he's talking about, man. And, you know, you hear the same guy will drink again. You know, this whole process is about change, and I can't just be humble, you know what I mean? This process that we go through is so cool, you know what I mean? Father Dowling, Jesuit priest in St. Louis, he got a hold of his book when it was first published, and he was so taken back by some man broke down his 3-month spiritual process of enlightenment into 12 easy steps like this. And that's cool. Yeah, I mean, you just see God's hands all over it, and I'm so very grateful to be a part of this deal, grateful to be a part of DAA, and hopefully very, very soon we'll be hosting a meeting at DAA near us. And that's all I got.
And now we got Margaret L.
That sounds so weird. We've only been married 2 years. I don't know my last name yet. My name is Margaret Leidenberg. I'm also a recovered drug addict alcoholic. So grateful to be here, part of DAA for 2 days. This is amazing. We were talking last night about the freedom that we can experience now in these meetings, talking about, pushing the pipe one more time. But it's, I'm so grateful for this process that got me here. Wasn't grateful in the beginning, hated it, didn't want anything to do with it. My sobriety date is February 20th, 2011. My home group is the primary purpose group, same one my husband goes to. We go to meetings together, we show up in AA together. We carry messages into the treatment centers, into the jails. And I just can't tell you what that experience has done for me. And I love the 4th and 5th step. It is a privilege and a blessing to be here today to talk about this stuff with you guys. And I can't thank you enough for asking us. We got hooked up through Eric and the guys in Green Bay. We met them down in Lexington 5 years ago, listening to Chris and Myers do a big book study. And Mike was down there. Yeah. Who knew we'd all be in the room here today? There's one who has all power. He knew. I love the mechanics of step work, right? I love taking the book apart and studying this, and that's what we do in our group. But there's nothing like the experience that backs up what this book says is true. I came into Alcoholics Anonymous one more time with my tail between my legs because that shit didn't work. And my sponsor, I'd been sober probably a year and went back to drinking. I didn't, my story is such that, how do you do this in 15 minutes? Where's Lindsay? Yeah, how do you do this in a half hour? How do you do this in 15 minutes? I started drinking and drugging when I was in high school, guys, like many of us, and I love to go to Metallica concerts. I spent half of them in the bathroom. I just don't know what to say. Cocaine became a pretty big part of my life, and I was selfless. I was the best mom. I was, I've got 3 kids now. Thank God they're all grown and out of the house. These beautiful little babies that were running around here last night. Oh my God, what a gift. And I came back to AA one more time because it was the only game in town, right? NA was, I'm not going to go there. There's no solution by us, you guys. There's not a whole lot of groups carrying a whole lot of solution by us, and we've gotten the opportunity to talk to many people about that this weekend, and it seems like this experience is a lot of places, and I am so grateful to walk into a place where y'all are talking about the power of God and how he changes lives. It's truly, so I said I love the mechanics of the steps, right? I got here February 2011. I'd been sober a year, went back to drinking. My sponsor and I were working out of the 12 and 12. We were drawing little diagrams and brainstorming about how we were going to change our lives. And I'm like, and then she says, oh, you just didn't want it bad enough. Want what? Therapy? I can pay for that. I got insurance. I'm in a treatment center. I go to a treatment center, and I've had little experiences like this all throughout my whole story, guys. And I was 17 years in and out of AA before I found a solution. Treatment center after treatment center, I'd go in, I'd leave. I'd go in, I'd leave. And the nurse told me one time, you just wanted a shower. I said, I got a shower, bitch. What do you, I don't know. Something was going on inside of me that I had no idea what it was. I had no idea why I kept doing what I was doing. I made this decision, you guys. I had little babies. I've got a 6-month-old little girl at the time, and she's laying in the playpen in a diaper full of shit, and her bottle that's half empty, and I'm upstairs stuck because I can't move. And my son, that's 3 years older than her, is pounding on the door trying to get me to get her some food. girl calls me today when she wants to buy a house and asks me for advice. That's what the power of God does in my life. But from there to here, I also have an older son. He's just still a wreck, but oh, God bless him. You know, there's a little spiritual malady in all of us, however it comes out. He's got financial issues. But from there to here, this journey that I walked through, this step was imperative. And I didn't understand what I was doing here. And the people that I take through this work are terrified of this step because everybody in the room has said this is a horrible, awful thing. And I come back to AA one more time, and I had a sponsor that was hardcore, and I picked her out of the back of the room because she was the biggest, baddest lesbian bitch in the world, and she was going to get my shit together, right? She was going to get me together because that's what I thought I needed. She was the biggest teddy bear in the world, you guys. But she started walking me down this process, and we get to the 4th step, and I hear in the rooms, you have to write your entire life story. So that's what I do. And I write 2 freaking notebooks full of garbage. It took me like 2 weeks, and she's on my ass to get there and get my 5th step done. And I'm like, but I got so much to write. Are you working on it? Yeah. She's like, sure. So, you know, and I'm writing, and I get there, and I show up with these notebooks, and she's like, are you ever going to follow directions? And I went, probably not. I don't know. I didn't, you know, she took me through the instructions in this book, and that's why I love the mechanics of the step. This book is the only place that gives us the instruction for how to have the vital spiritual experience that we need. It's it. Our decision, and Jason talked about this a little bit. Oh, he tricked me with decaf this morning, guys, so sorry. Look at him smiling. Guys, that was rough. Man, though our decision to feed our wife decaf was vital and crucial. No. Vital, right? What's the word mean? Life-supporting, life-giving. This decision I make in 3, to quit playing God because it didn't work. The decision to put God first. He's the principal, I'm the agent. To put him first requires me to back up that decision I made with some action. And next, right now, we launch into a vigorous course of action. We're up off our knees from a 3rd step, and we're writing 4. And the girls that I sponsor, the people that I sponsor, things are changing, guys. I can't keep up. Like, my brain is foggy, and there was a lot of crack, and a lot of alcohol, and a lot of surgeries. I almost died in a car accident about 12 years ago, and I've had about 20 surgeries, so forgive me if I'm not on track here. Vital. This decision was vital to me coming to an understanding of who I was, because my identity is in God. My identity is not in people. It's not in my husband. It's not in the people I sponsor. My identity comes from God, and that's how I can walk free of all those things that I've already talked about. But that decision, I didn't understand how crucial it was, because it says when we sincerely take that position. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm running around after being through the work. I'm about 6 months sober. I'm sponsoring a gal that I still sponsor. She's still sober. She's like 8 months less time than me. It's the coolest thing in the world, you guys. But I'm running around sponsoring people, and I'm going back into self. My sponsor who's taken me through the work has retired and moved to Utah, and I'm dating somebody half my age, right? And you know, after just breaking up with his dad. But it's... But I can't see it. I can't... True story. I can't see it. Right? I can't see that I'm using people and things to make me feel okay inside, and that's what I use drugs and alcohol for, guys. I wasn't using to party. I wasn't using to have a good time. Something inside me is so incredibly wrong that when I put that substance in me, it's like, now I can breathe again. Can't necessarily move out of my bedroom, but I can breathe. So when I discovered that this decision should force me into some action, then I start writing. And I love that it says the purpose of step 4 and 5 in this book. We hear a lot of people around us say the purpose of this step is to puke up all this garbage about you so that you can go on with your life. That's not true. It says right in here, we're trying to be rid of the things that have been blocking us from the power of God. One object is to disclose damaged and unsaleable goods, to get rid of them promptly and without regret. I'm glad Jason doesn't have a son. I'd probably, no. Anyway, but that's what I mean. I don't understand these things that are damaged within me, right? I don't get them. 5 minutes. God, Henry. Okay. I don't understand these things. I don't understand that the way I'm behaving is not right, okay? So I put these things down in this column, and I'm going to search out the flaws in my makeup. I am not a horrible, awful piece of crap, right? I made a literal shit ton of mistakes in my life. And God loves me just as much now as he did then. And he loves you guys just as much as he did, as he's ever has. Nothing can change that, but I couldn't see it. And going through this process, looking for these flaws, writing this inventory. I do a 5-column inventory. I believe the book speaks to that. The first 3 columns are all about what you did to me, right? And then the next 2 columns, I think on 67, it talks about we put out of our minds the wrongs others had done. We resolutely looked for our own mistakes. That's the selfishness, self-centeredness, dishonesty, fear. That's the mistake. Then it says, though a situation had not been entirely our fault, we tried to disregard the other person involved entirely. Where were we to blame? The inventory was ours, not the other man's. When we saw our faults, we listed them. I had the same experience sitting at a bar stool, you guys. I'm an alcoholic. Give me another drink. I'm selfish. Let me take another hostage. Unless I can see what my fault is and how that came about, I can't make any changes. And we do the same thing in the sex inventory. I make 4 lists in this step. We do the resentment list, we do the fear list, we do the sex inventory, and then I believe on the bottom of page 70 it calls for a harms list. Because it says we have listed the people we've hurt by our conduct. Really? I didn't have a resentment against my mom. You gonna tell me I didn't hurt her? I left her awake numerous nights, wondering whether she was gonna have to raise another set of kids, whether she was gonna get that phone call in the middle of the night, right? So we do this harms list here also, and it says over in 8 and 9 that we made that when we took inventory. So we walk through this process and we come out on the basis of trusting and relying on God rather than our finite selves. I'm in the world now to play the role he assigns me, wherever that takes me, wherever he guides me. And we spend a lot of time in prayer, you guys. We spend a lot of time in being of service to others. And I just love that when I can sit down with someone and they're doing a 4-step and we talk them through step 5. Nobody's talked about 5. Maybe Sean will talk about 5. I don't know. We'll see what God has. But we're really bad about that. But, when I can sit face to face and I can give the people across the table from me a list of their character defects and they go, oh, holy crap, right? And we take that into prayer and we go home and we finish the 5th step, the bottom of the page, right? Thanks, babe. Bottom of the page on 75, we go home, we sit quiet for an hour, we ask these questions, and we turn the page and we go into 6 and 7. We thank God from the bottom of our hearts that we know him better. Why? I know God better because I know myself better at this point. And now I'm about to go into a process of asking him to remove the things from me that I can't remove on my own and that will keep me in that spiritually sick state of living and being. So, God, I got so much more to say, but I'm going to stop there. Thanks, guys.
All right. And finally, we got Sean S. from New Orleans.
All right. So my name is Sean Sand. I'm a recovered alcoholic and an addict.
Hi, Sean.
I 329782. That's my Department of Corrections number.
Yes.
Right. It's who I was for a really long time. I listen to people talk about like just their feelings and the way they've seen the program and the discoveries they've made, and I'm like, huh? I don't get it. I really don't. real simple guy. I'm uneducated. Last grade I completed was the 7th grade. Not a dumb guy. I'm just not an educated guy, right? And so I come here and I listen to a lot of this stuff, and I can't get there. I just can't really get from being 32, 97, 82 to being the guy I am today. Like, I don't, like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I was taught I come here, I do the work, and I get the results. That's the sound of recovery. That's the sound of sobriety. I used to sit in meetings, and I had this sponsor who fought in a cage for a living, and he was just truly just this real badass, and they'd have women, single mothers come in with babies, and they'd be crying, and people would be bitching, and they would just stand up and tell them to shut up. That's the sound of sobriety, and so thank you. I get scared, right? When I come up here and I got to talk in front of you, because I'm about to tell you some truths about me that, you know what I mean, it's like not popular, not the thing to do, you know? You know, I've been shot, stabbed, I've been in the penitentiary, and none of that really bothered me. But I'm going to come up here and I'm going to tell you what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now, and you can hear my voice, right? All right, so this step 3 deal, right? So at the bottom of the page, right? So there's no amen at the end of this prayer, right? We're opening up this avenue, this deal with God on page 63, right? And at the bottom of the page, it said, next we launched out on a course of vigorous action. The first step, which is a personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted. Though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once, not like at once, right? Not real bright, but I kind of get that, right? Followed by strenuous effort to face and be rid of the things in ourselves which has been blocking us. Our liquor was but a symptom, so we had to get down to causes and conditions. So, right, so from 64 to 70, what is it, 76? That's all a prayer. It's meant to be done at a really good clip, not a 2-month, you know, like this is meant to be done really quick, right? And so, I don't know about you, I've never had the idea that I need to come to DAA or AA when I'm getting loaded. Like, even when the wheels fall off and the parole officer's looking for me, I've never thought, well, maybe I need to come see you people. You know what I mean? I've never come here voluntarily, right? And there again, I told you I wasn't really a bright guy. And so every time I'm coming home from one of those places, right, and I'm empty and nothing's working, it's just, I don't have a God problem. I like to go really fast. I'm a speed guy. I like to go really, really fast. And I'm just out of gas. I'm out of juice. I don't have anything left. And that's when the problem starts. It's not when I'm loaded. It's not when I'm high. It's when the sun's coming up and I'm out of money and I got nobody left to rob. And I know I'm about to take another trip back to somewhere. And that's when the problems start. That's when it's you know what I mean? That's when I miss mommy. That's when, you know what I mean? That's when, you know, because that's where all real tough guys go. You know, it's, my mommy's the only person who's come to visit me every Sunday in the penitentiary. You know, she's the only person who's ever put money in my books. You know, all my buddies, all the women. Nobody's ever made that trip, and she's the first person I'll do whatever just to get that one more. And so I come here and I don't want to be sober. I got on my first probation at 15, and I'm 31, 32 years old, and I hadn't made it off probation or parole yet. And I'm in this treatment center, and I'm on house arrest, and I abscond, and so I finally get caught after one more suicide attempt because, you know, it's just, I've been here before. You people haven't helped me. You people have done nothing for me. I've been to a bunch of treatment centers. I've tried everything. I've tried her. I've tried, you know, I've tried God. I've tried all this stuff, and nothing works. You know, I just can't. I don't understand why anybody who wants to be sober. I don't understand why anybody wants to get up and go to work. I don't understand why, you know, like what's a mortgage? I don't understand any of this stuff, and I'd rather get loaded more than I'd rather do anything else. And so I come here and I get this guy because the treatment center says I got to have this sponsor fella, and So I'm watching this guy, and he comes to meetings barefoot, and he's in these little shorts, these little, I guess, spandex, and he stinks. He smells like patchouli, but he doesn't speak, right? Doesn't speak. And so I figure I'm coming in the druggy buggy, and so I ask this guy, and he snatches me up, and he pulls me outside this meeting, and he interviews me, and he asks me the questions that the book tells us to ask, right? And he wants to know if I have a problem that he has the solution to the problem I have. And so we get through all that, and he agrees to sponsor me, and he gives me some rules, gives me some conditions, right? And I had never heard this before. I'd been to 1,000 AA meetings at this point, and he didn't talk anything about I'm going to love you till you can love yourself, that easy does it, none of this. He told me that once the meeting started, I couldn't get up. If I wanted 2 cups of coffee, grab them, right? And he fought in a cage for a living, so he said he would armbar me if he found me messing with new women, Alcoholics Anonymous. And he gave me these things that nobody had ever told me I hadn't heard before, right? And I couldn't stay sober. I just couldn't. And so we start doing this deal, this thing that I don't understand, and all the other guys would come back, to the treatment center, and they would talk about how their sponsor took them for coffee, and they talked about the world, and everything was amazing. And my sponsor, he didn't do any of that. I had to ride a bike 12 miles to the coffee shop to meet him. If I was late, he'd leave. Yeah. You know what I mean? We would talk about the book, and he would give me questions to answer, and I remember the first 4-step I did, he balled it up and he threw it at me. And he told me I was an idiot. And I was, right? And I'm not saying that I sponsor guys that way, but I'm saying it's what I needed, right? Because if you'd have gave me an inch, I'd have took a mile. I didn't want to be sober. I wanted to be off parole, that's it. I just wanted to be off parole. I really had it in the back of my mind that if I got off parole, I could get loaded like I wanted to and nobody could tell me anything. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have to take these drug tests. I wouldn't have to, you know what I mean? I can't tell you how many times I went to see my parole officer falling out the chair because I was just so wore out. And when they would lock me up, it would be a break. I get to fatten up, and you know what I mean. And I get to do what we do. I get to hang out all day and lie and talk shit, and it set me free at some point. At some point, they would set me free. But the problem was, I was still locked up here. You know what I mean? And I don't get a lot of this stuff, and I don't understand a lot of what we do here. I was talking to Chris before he spoke, and I said, Chris, we come from the same lineage, and so we speak a lot of the same language, and I told him, I said, sometimes I feel out of place here. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, my life's not full of all these problems that I hear. My life's not, I'm not unhappy, I'm not miserable, I don't have all this shit that I hear in meetings. And he said, some of us come here and do the work, and some of us don't. Some of us come here and focus on the problem, and some of us don't. And the first, I'll tell you, I'm going to get high if my life looks like a lot of the shit I hear here. I'm going to get high. I'm not going to stick around. You know what I mean? So you come here and you do this work, right? And my brother, we lived in the same house the last 10 years of my using. He wouldn't speak to me, right? I abandoned my son. I just ran out. I needed a hit more than I needed him. 10, 12 years I didn't see him. I'd wander around, and I'd be in the mall, or I'd be not the mall, I'm lying. I'd be in the grocery store, you know what I mean? I'd be in these places, and I'd wonder if that was my kid, I'd see these blonde-head, blue-eyed little boys, and I'd be like, is that him? Could that be him? And my dad used to kick the door in the crack houses looking for me, so I come here and I do this work and I look at this stuff, right? They got a couple columns, who am I resentful at? Oh, man, I'm sorry. And then the cause, well, what did you do to me? All right, what did you do to me, right? then my effects, and then you got the fourth column, where am I to blame, right? And I go there and I do all this work, right? And then the sex, and I go through all that stuff. And I mean, to be honest with you, I would rather the pipe than a woman for a long, long time. I didn't really give a shit. You know what I mean? I don't really care. You know, a bath, what? I don't. It's just, you know what I mean? Right? And then so this fifth step, right? This fifth step, I share this with God, with another human being, right? And I get this all down on paper. And my first 4 steps sucked. It was horrible. You know what I mean? And it was bad. But there's some information, right? And they asked us to go home and sit quietly for an hour, right? And there's some stones. They asked us for our stones properly in place. You know, and I was taught to go back through the book, and they give me the page numbers, and I go back and I make sure that all these things are properly in place, right? See, because if they're not, I'm done, right? If this stuff, if I'm not doing this work, right, then my life's going to look like the shit that I hear in meetings. And then I'm not going to stay here, right? Because I don't want to be unhappy. And so that brother that lived in the same house with me, they wouldn't speak to me. And he would grunt every once in a while. He'd say, you know, asshole, that's what he called me. He said, the phone's for you. Or, you know what I mean? Or somebody's here for you, right? He's a doctor. He got white-coated at this ceremony, and he asked me to white-coat him. Real tough, right? He had a baby boy 5 years ago. He asked me to be the godfather. They just had a little daughter, Sadie Rose. They asked me to be the godfather. The day I flew up here, my son moved back in my house. You know, he's a traveling nurse, and he wants to go back to school, and so he wants to save money. So he asked me to come live with me. You know, my dad used to kick the door in the crack houses. He died 8 years ago, and right before he died, he told my mom, he said, if I died tomorrow, he says, it's okay, my boys are okay. But yet I want to come sit here and I want to bitch about the bullshit that I won't do, right? I want to come talk about the stuff that I come here and I do the work and my life gets really good. Or I come here and I bitch and complain like I used to do, right? The psychic change, right? Everything. My sponsor is this little coon ass from Lafayette, Louisiana, and he says, the only thing that might be valid is the multiplication tables. And he says, that's suspect. You know? I've had really good sponsorship that they don't care about my feelings. They don't really, right? You know, I asked my sponsor to sponsor me, right? And my second sponsor, and he said you're low maintenance, okay. And what he meant was you do the work, right? You do the work. He said, but if you're going to blow your brains out and it's after 6 o'clock, don't call me. You knew before 6 o'clock you're going to blow your brains out. You know? And he does these workshops and he does these deals. His wife just passed away, and so he's doing less of them. But he used to do, between him and his wife, they would do like 30 weeks a year, right? 30 weekends a year, and they'd take all these people up to their house, and he would take us through the steps in a weekend. And he would do the men, and she would do the women. And I can remember at 3 months sober, I went up there for the first time, and sitting around this table, right, and we're doing fifth steps, and we do them in groups, and there's this guy that's done, 100 years in the penitentiary, and there's this big biker, and there's all these people. It's just like this really, super successful guy in business, and it's just all these people, and so they start, next to me, and they go around, and the whole time I'm just like, I'm not doing it. There's all these men blubbering and crying, and, real tough guys, and it comes to me, and it just comes out. You know what I mean? I don't have a part in much of this. Right? If I'm taking the action, I don't have a part in much of this, right? If I try to dissect it or try to figure it out, like I'm in the way, right? And if I just do the work, something happens. And so I can remember making this deal with God that if he let me stay sober and he ever put me in a position where I could do something like this, I would. And I've been doing it ever since. I got a camp, I was remodeling, and my fishing buddy's like, well, that's my room. And, I'm like, no, it's a bunk room, And so we have this that'll sleep 10 guys, and we do these big book weekends. And I lend it out to the women, and they take women up there, and they do these big book weekends. And I don't know. It's amazing. So if your life sucks, try to do some work. Right? If you've been here a while and things aren't the way you want them to be, try to do some work. Try to take this out of the equation and try to put this in the equation, and maybe some things will change. Thank you.